Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of council for the Township of Malahide on November 6th. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:02. We'll begin. First item on the agenda is O Canada. Please rise.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. Any additions, changes? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple, an OPP update and, yeah, basically an OPP update, so thank you.
Under announcements?
Okay, yep.
Sorry, did you say OPP? Any other additions or changes? Seeing none. Resolution, please.
That the November 6, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved as presented with the following amendment, OPP announcements.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Next is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Thank you. I have one, G, quarter revision for the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement.
Thank you. Noted. This brings us to announcements. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you. We had a Malahide Community Policing meeting. Went over the crime stats for the month. Actually, we're down pretty great, actually, but there was a cyber scam. One of our residents lost, they said $300,000. So you have to be careful, and it's getting more sophisticated all the time, and they know what they're doing, and you have to be careful. And the second thing they had was the deer hits are on the rise substantially. I know in our neighborhood, there was 4 within 2 days, and one just rode a car out this afternoon. So be conscientious, because they sure are out there. I almost got one this morning, so just drive carefully, and if you see one, stop, because there's usually 3 more behind them, so thank you.
Thank you for that.
The dough, the buck's on the other side of the.
Have to be extremely careful this time of year. Thank you for that reminder. Next is adoption of minutes. So we have the minutes from our last meeting, October 16th. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we have the resolution, please.
That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on October 16, 2025 be adopted.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next is a court meeting of the Court of Revision. So we have the resolution, please, for that.
That the Council of the Township of Malahide does hereby appoint the following members to sit on the Court of Revision for the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement. Mayor Dominique Giguère, Councillor Sarah Leach, and Councillor John H. Wilson.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so I'll call the meeting of the Court of Revision to order. I note that this meeting refers to the municipal drain, the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement. It is based on the engineer reports dated September 4th, 2025, and the engineer is Spreet Associates. So we'll have a resolution to call the meeting to order.
That the Court of Revision for the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement be called to order at 7:07 PM and that Dominique Giguere be appointed chair.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. And do we have the drainage? Yes, Mr. Verican, can you briefly outline the nature of the proposed? Oh, it is
Yep.
Mr. Spreet, sorry. I don't know if I should trust my eyes on the screen or my eyes on the on the script. I'll go with the screen. So welcome, Mr. Spreet. Can you outline the nature of the proposed drainage, please?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's meeting is the quarter revision for the Brooks Drain Branch A. So that's an existing municipal drain that we're improving the bottom end of it. So basically the tile drain south of County Road 48 Lions Line through the lands of Mr. Burks. The existing drain was too small and undersized and not deep enough. So Mr. Burks signed a request. So we're replacing that drain or improving it by a larger size up through that lands. All the assessments are shown on page 8, which is the assessment for construction. People are assessed benefit if the drain's on their property or if they have a connection to it, such as the County of Elgin. And outlet is if you have land area coming towards the drain, you're assessed outlet in accordance with the Drainage Act. Are there any questions?
Any questions from member of the court? Not seeing any questions. And Mr. Spreet, were there any written comments or objections received?
I've heard of none, Your Worship.
And clerk has not received any. Anyone in attendance wishing to speak to this application or assessment? And there's no one online either. So the court, if there are no further comments or questions, then the Court of Revision members will now consider a resolution to confirm the rates presented by the engineer. Clerk Adams, may I have the resolution for that?
That the Court of Revision members for the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement do hereby accept the recommendations of drainage engineer John Spreet and further does hereby confirm the drainage assessments as outlined in the report of the drainage engineer dated September 4th, 2025.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. So, Mr. Spreet, can you provide any information if anyone wishes to appeal or?
Well,
if
since they
warranted?
haven't appealed at this time, the appeal periods are over, but the bylaw will be passed, I think, at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. So Clerk Adams, we have the resolution then to close the Court of Revision meeting and so that council can resume its meeting.
That the Court of Revision relating to the Brooks Drain Branch A improvement be adjourned and the council meeting reconvene at 7:10 PM.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. So that's it for the Court of Revisions. Thank you, Mr. Spreet.
Thank you. Have a good
Have a
evening.
nice evening. So next on the agenda is a public meeting. We have the resolution to bring that meeting to order.
The council adjourned its regular meeting at 7:11 PM in order to convene in a public meeting under section 34-12 of the Planning Act.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Glinski seconds, all in favor. Motion is carried. So this is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to the property known municipally as 5845 Glencolin Line. Clerk Adams, can you let us know of the method of notice and when that notice was given to the public for this meeting?
The public meeting was advertised in the Elmer Express for 2 consecutive weeks on October 22nd and October 29th. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were mailed a notice at minimum 20 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Steele. Can you provide an overview of the application and let us know if there were any comments received?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The owners of this property currently operate a manure handling business, and in 2021 had filed a zoning bylaw amendment to permit a motor vehicle repair use on the property for the purposes of doing routine maintenance as well as MTO safety inspections of the various vehicles and equipment that they use in the operation of their business. As part of that site-specific zoning at that time, we restricted the maximum floor area of the business to 140 square meters. The owner is looking to increase the size of the building to 308 square meters. The purpose of this is to allow for the routine maintenance and these inspections to take place entirely within the building, as currently just due to the size of the equipment that they use. Currently, vehicles are partly parked outdoors while that work is taking place. And then addition will also help sort of screen the use from additional properties and ensure that all the work is really being contained within the existing building. There are no proposed increases or changes to the scale or intensity of their business. The number of employees remains the same, as well as the current bylaw prohibits any kind of outdoor storage associated with that use. And so the proposed amendment would also ensure the continued operation of this business that directly supports agricultural operations within the area. No comments have been received from agencies or the public, and staff are recommending that the application be approved. And that concludes our presentation. I'd be happy to take questions from members of council.
Thank you. We're just looking at a little tech issue. I was just going to ask the clerk if there was anyone in attendance or online wanted to speak to this application.
I don't think so. No.
All right, and there's no one online. Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from members of council? Councilor Wilson.
Just comment, the picture of the truck sticking out looks like me wearing capri pants. So looks like they need an addition.
If there are no further comments or any further discussion, then please be advised that any person wishing further information regarding the passing of this proposed bylaw amendment should contact our clerk. So we can proceed for now with the adjournment of this public meeting.
That the planning public meeting adjourn at 7:15 p.m. and council reconvene its regular meeting in order to continue with its deliberation.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Serna moves, Councilor Wilson seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. And now the resolution to consider the planner's report, please.
The report number DS 25-40 entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application of Edward MP and Constance Camilleri relating to the property located at Concession North Gore, North part of Lot 19, RP 11R1958, Part 1, 50845 Glencoe Line be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 Z11-25 be approved for the reasons set out in this report.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Wilson moves, Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. This brings us to a second public meeting this evening. And when we're ready, with just a resolution to call this meeting to order.
That council adjourns its regular meeting at 7:16 p.m. in order to convene as in a public meeting under section 3412 of the Planning Act.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Leach moves, Councilor Lewis seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. So this is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to the property known municipally as 49604 Talbot Line. Clerk Adams, can you let us know the method of notice and when the notice was given to the public for this meeting.
The public meeting was advertised in the Aylmer Express for 2 consecutive weeks on October 22nd and October 29th. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were mailed a notice at minimum 20 days prior to this meeting.
Thank you. And now over to you, Mr. Steele, for an overview of the application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This property is approximately 16 acres in size and currently contains an original farm dwelling with an internal additional residential unit, a new dwelling with an internal additional residential unit, as well as an accessory building with a dwelling unit for a total of 5 residential units on the property. The current zoning of the property only permits 1 single unit dwelling as well as an accessory dwelling unit. And as a result, these units are not currently in compliance with the zoning bylaw. And so the owner has submitted an application to allow for 3 of the residential units to be permitted on the property, with the additional 2 units to be removed in the future if the application is approved. The social lands are located within the suburban area of the township, just east of the town of Aylmer. This designation permits a range of commercial industrial uses as well as residential uses, and is surrounded by a range of highway commercial uses in the area, as well as small scale rural residential and a 4-unit townhouse dwelling immediately to the south. A wastewater loading report was submitted by an engineering firm that evaluated the wastewater loading of the property and determined that all of the 3 units would be adequately serviced by the existing septic system on the property. In addition to permitting the 3 residential units, staff are also recommending that a holding provision be applied to the property. A holding provision is a tool under the Planning Act to be used to prohibit any sort of new future buildings from being constructed on the property until certain criteria are met. In this case being that either a subdivision or a site plan control agreement are registered for the property. And the purpose of this is to ensure that in the future additional development doesn't, or future construction of the property doesn't inhibit the future or long-term comprehensive development of this large parcel within the suburban area of the township. No comments are received from agencies or members of the public, and so staff are recommending that the application be approved. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to questions from members of council.
Thank you. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to speak to this application? Or the agent? Good. Anyone online? Okay, no comments or questions from applicants or agent. Councillor Wilson.
I'm, cognizant that they're trying to bring it up to the proper zoning, but I'm wondering how it got this far beyond compliance to start with.
Mr. Steele, can you comment on that?
I can provide some information. I do not have all the history of the bylaw enforcement process. I do know that part of the bylaw enforcement process is an option to seek planning application or approval of planning applications to resolve bylaw enforcement issues. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the history of all the history of the bylaw enforcement process at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, were there not building permits issued for those 5 buildings or some of the 5 buildings? Because some of the buildings might have been original buildings on the farm, but the additional ones would have required. And as far as I can remember, anytime we were adding a building, we had to get a permit. So were building permits not requested or required at that time? Would Mr. Steele have an answer for that?
Is it Mr. Steele or CO Diaz?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's my understanding that some of the buildings on the property do have permits associated with them, but some of the dwelling units, that's my understanding, do not. And if the application is approved, building permits will be required to address any kind of building code compliance.
Any further comments?
Through your worship, At the time when I was looking at this and in conversation with the CBO, it looks like there was a condition that was put into place before a permit could be issued for the demolition of one of the residential units. Instead, looking through this compliance through amending the zoning will now allow for the building to be continued to be used.
Okay, so it looks like everything is getting straightened out slowly but surely, so that's good.
Always change the rules.
And there've been some amendment to the provincial planning statement, so that helps everybody out. Any further comments or questions from members of council? So if there's no further discussion on this application, then please be advised that any person wishing further information regarding the passing of the proposed bylaw amendment should contact the clerk. And for now, we'll proceed with the adjournment of this public meeting. With the resolution, please, with our multitasking.
That the planning public meeting adjourn at 7:23 PM and council reconvene in its regular meeting in order to continue with its deliberations.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves, Councillor Leach seconds, all in favor. The motion is carried. And now for the consideration of the planner's report.
The report number DS 25-41 entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application of Waldemar Yansum relating to the property located at concession north of Talbot Road, Part Lot 87, RP 11R 10090, Parts 1 and 2, 49604 Talbot Line be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 Z12-25 be approved for the reasons set out in this report.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cerna moves. Councillor Glinski seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone in attendance. This brings us to next on the agenda is approval of business. Like our consent agenda is to consider the recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. So the only item that was discussed by the committee was the procedural bylaw changes and adjustments based on the strong mayor powers update. Any further discussion or comments or questions on that item? Seeing none, resolution, please.
Whereas at its October 16, 2025 meeting, the Committee of the Whole recommended Council item A, and be it resolved that Council adopts the above recommendations from the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves. Councillor Leach seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, this brings us to new business. The first item is the Green Buildings Pathway Grant submission. And we have our Manager of Facilities and Contracts, Mr. Pennings. Over to you.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Report PW 2535 is a request to Council to back the submission of a full application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities FCM Green Municipal Fund under the Green Buildings Pathway feasibility study stream, and to commit the township's 20% share, estimated at $40,000 from the capital reserve, only if the grant application is approved. The study would cost about $200,000 in total, with FCM funding up to 80%, $160,000. The report explains that Malahide has already been cleared by the FCM to submit the full application at this time. The proposed study would look at four facilities: the Township Administration Office, MCP, South Dorchester Community Hall, and Council Chambers. Included in the study is a benchmark of current energy and water usage, along with greenhouse gas emissions. It will identify practical retrofits like HVAC, lighting, and envelope upgrades, and build a phased roadmap that can be tied into the asset management plan and future capital budgets. Estimate completing the study to FCM standards keeps the township eligible for future implementation funding, and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you for that. I'll open it up for questions, comments. Counselor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, I always have questions about studies. So this is no different. And when I see 200,000 being spent on a study, if not more, um, uh, how far would 200,000 go to replacing some of the things that are questionable? This might be my question. Rather than putting the money into a consultant's pocket, put it into repairs. At least that's my point of view. Thank you.
Any comments from staff on that? Is this a step that's necessary where that money could go directly into perhaps some of the repairs?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor. I think it's important to be reminded that the township is only putting up 40,000 of this, and it really is for future capital upgrades where this is going to be beneficial to the township in that we can strategically apply for future funding applications and future applications that come out, which will be the township will be eligible to receive well more than $40,000 for some of these capital improvements that we can tie into at the same time as some of our assets become required to be replaced already that would be only at the township expense.
Councillor Diaz and then Deputy Mayor Widner. Did I call you Councillor Diaz? You've just been elected.
Thank you for the motion there.
That's right. With strong mayor powers, I can probably do most anything. So okay, we'll go back to CO Diaz.
Through your worship, in terms of this sort of investment, it is an investment into a study. I think one way to look at it is $10,000 per building, and that would open the doors for capital improvements for really expensive components down the line. We're talking about, again, commercial and institutional HVAC components that easily cost tens of thousands of dollars. So that $10,000 would open the door for eligibility criteria for grants, which usually require this third-party study or assessment in order for us to pursue. In terms of timing, it's hard to say if anything goes wrong with equipment. Having this this study sitting on the shelf and a grant that comes available down the line would kind of tie in hand to allow for a fortunate coverage. So the $10,000 would potentially pay for tens of thousands plus down the line.
Deputy Mayor Widner and then Councillor Leach.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know Jason brought up a report. We're looking at new furnaces maybe for the hall or the office in town. Would that still be eligible if we don't do it and wait for this grant to come through?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. It's a good question. Typically, a lot of these funding applications are not retroactive in the sense that if you've already started or initiated work, they typically won't let you go back on that. Those costs are usually deemed ineligible. You are right. We are doing or in the midst of and on the cusp of doing a number of HVAC upgrades at some of our sites. There is an option that you could potentially pause on the ones that have not been initiated in hopes that we could get this study done, which would then make us eligible for other future grants to help subsidize those costs. There is a bit of unknown with that. So as things stand right now, we are still looking at proceeding with those HVAC upgrades. There are high efficiency replacements. We budgeted for those. Council has approved those budgets. So we are still intending on moving forward unless there's some other reason that we shouldn't. That being said, we are pausing at least until the spring It's never a great idea to do some of these HVACs in the middle of the winter, just in case. This building, for example, has been done already. So this one, you know, that kind of takes the HVAC component out of any future grant possibilities, at least for, you know, hopefully 2 decades or so. One of the things that I look at this as really opening the door on are some of the more the building envelope upgrades. We've done basics to most of these facilities, but you know, roofs and windows and doors are coming. You know, like you even look at MCP, you look, it's now 20 years old. Those things are starting to wear down. We currently don't have any plan other than capital funding through our tax dollar for those. Whereas if we have these reports that recommend these upgrades, that does open that door for future funding for some of those other very large expenses other than the HVAC side of things. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that does help. I guess if we had, that's a 200,000, we have to pay 40. So that's a pretty good deal for us. And we're always going to have something to replace or fix or upgrade. So too bad we couldn't pause it enough to get the one in the office, but I guess we can't. You know more than I do about that. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Leach.
Through Madam Mayor to either Manager Pennings or Director Godby. What are the legs of this particular opportunity? Like if we put the 40,000 in, how long is the information good for?
Through your worship to Councillor Leach. The study will have a long-term plan of 15 to 20 years implementation. So we would be fully prepared to keep using this study for the next 15, 20 years to back future funding applications.
So it's money well spent in terms of opening the door for future funding opportunities that doesn't rely on our constituents.
And so it's staff's position that we would not easily qualify for these other grants, like the actual works, without the study. And you're also confident that we will get more than 40,000 in savings on all these other projects over. So we'll get the 40,000 back. Right. Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. My first reading through it was, I'd just echo exactly what Councillor Glinski said. It's like, seems like a lot of cash to spend, but makes you ineligible for the actual grants when they come down if you don't have the actual study. And engineers love to see engineering reports.
And do we know, is 200,000 is like a high estimate just for the sake of the application? Is there a chance it could also be less, which would be also less than 40,000?
Through your worship, yes, the 200,000 is the maximum for this funding opportunity. So the township would be on the hook for a maximum 40,000.
And it could be less. Okay, Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does it's through the FCM, do they dictate who the third party is to do this grant, or do we have some flexibility in selecting who would be doing the work?
At this time, they have not dictated who it would be, so we would have the flexibility of picking who we'd like to do this study.
Is that something you would go for, like request for proposal, maybe like get the best, if there, I don't know how many firms can do this work or are available in this area, but okay. Any further comments? Good discussion. It is a good deal, but still a chunk of change, so worthy of good reflection and discussion. If there's nothing else, we'll consider a resolution.
The report number PW 25-35 entitled Green Buildings Pathway Grant Submission be received, and that council authorize staff to prepare and submit a full grant application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund under the Green Building Pathways Feasibility Study stream, and that the township's 20% funding contribution, estimated at $40,000, be funded from the capital reserve contingent upon the grant application being approved.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item under new business is the contract award for the winter maintenance. Director Gobby or Manager Pennings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council is our award of contract for our community facility and municipal sidewalk winter maintenance. This tender was put out for bids for competitive pricing after we have just concluded our most recent contract. This particular time out, we went for a 1-year contract with the possibility of annual extensions. Previous contracts have been for a 3-year period, and that was it. So we were kind of locked with that single contractor. It makes it a little more difficult to adjust performance concerns when you're into that longer term period. However, we figured this go around, we will look at 1-year periods, and also we have separated the community facility side versus the municipal sidewalk side. Those will be 2 separate contracts. However, for this purpose, they were tendered together and they are contained in this report together, recommending the award together, both of which is a recommended contract with Kettle Creek Landscaping of St. Thomas. That is the contractor who has been doing this work for us since 2019. We have had no issues or concerns with any of the work they've done. Minor things always, but no major concerns. And therefore, we are recommending that council approve us executing a contract with them for the first of up to 5 1-year periods. If there are any questions, I will gladly answer.
Thank you. Questions, comments from members of council? Councillor Leach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have a lot of equipment. Could you explain why we don't, as a township, look after some of these spaces ourselves?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Leach. It's a good question that I think every municipality wrestles with to a degree. One of the biggest things that we have is our obligations to the minimum maintenance standards of our roads. We do typically run a relatively thin crew to begin with, so the focus from a legal liability standpoint, our highest responsibility is ultimately going to be to the roads. In order for us to keep that focus and maintain snow removal on the roads and meet those obligations, it would mean that most of these facilities would not get service until 8-10 hours into an event, a snow event. What that does is leaves us in a precarious situation specifically for our administration building and for the community halls, where we have paying renters who may be coming in to utilize the facility. And if the sidewalks have not been cleared and the parking lot has not been plowed, that reflects poorly upon us, and then also exposes us to a bunch of liability as well for slips, trips, and falls. So that's kind of the biggest reason. One of the other things that does play in a bit is a lot of our equipment is very big, and you need some smaller units to tuck in and around some of the buildings, and that's the primary reason why we have not done that here. And in my experience, most places typically do kind of pass that out. These guys get up at 4 a.m. and are here to make sure that, when staff arrive or renters arrive, that the lots have been cleared and the sidewalks have been done, and without having to deal with, the staffing issues or pulling people off the road.
So this is the most cost-effective circumstance for the township.
It is definitely the most operationally feasible for us. Cost effectiveness, you'd be probably looking at, potentially having to employ additional staffing. So realistically, for the overall annual cost, I don't think we could bring a staff member on and dedicate them to this in order to meet the same level of service.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? As you mentioned, Director Godby, this is a vendor we've employed before, so they've been responsive to feedback or a little tweaking during the season. Okay. If there are no further comments or questions, a resolution, please.
The report number PW 25-38 entitled Contract Award Community Facility and Municipal Sidewalk Winter Maintenance 2025 to 2030 be received, and that the Community Facility Winter Maintenance 2025 to 2030 contract be awarded to Kettle Creek Landscaping Limited of St. Thomas, Ontario, and that the Municipal Sidewalk Winter Maintenance 2025 to 2030 contract be awarded to Kettle Creek Landscaping Limited of St. Thomas, Ontario, and that the Director of Public Works be authorized to enter into an agreement with Kettle Creek Landscaping Limited of St. Thomas, Ontario, for the purpose of completing the community facility and municipal sidewalk winter maintenance contracts.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Leach moves. Councillor Glinski seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item is the tender results for the guide rail installations on Springer Hill Road. Mr. Godby?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council. This report is to award the installation of guide rail on Springer Hill Road, just north of Highway 3. I believe it's pages 54, 55 of your agendas. Show you the two areas. There's two sections of ravine that were identified through one of the previously completed road safety audits, phase 2. Where council had provided direction to continue with this guide rail installation program at some of the locations identified in that report. So as a result, we issued the tender to have this work completed and got some favorable pricing from Royal Fence Limited out of Dorchester, Ontario, to do these two locations. And if council approves, we will execute this work in the coming weeks to have it done before the winter season. If there are any questions, I'll gladly answer.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through to Jason. I know we're at fault for having this program put in place. How many years are we on the hook to keep installing good air guardrails and things like that before we can maybe take a pause, because it's very expensive?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, I would have to double check, and I can't get this for council. I believe we have about 4 more years that was going to wrap up all those locations that had previously been identified through those road safety audits as requiring improvement of some sort. There are years where it fluctuates just based on our funding. Typically, we have historically have tried to allocate approximately $100,000 of capital funding annually. That was the previous direction, and that's kind of just been taken as a floater. So in this case, we were able to do these 2 locations for $100,000. We had a year, I think last year or 2 years ago, where we did 1 and it was more extensive. So it was $77,000. So at that point, what we did was carried over the remainder. And then last year, I think we spent $125,000, but we're hovering around that $100,000 annually in order to get this work completed. But I can definitely report back with kind of where the end is The end is in sight, but it is still a few years away. But I can definitely pass that information on.
Thank you for that. I guess the problem is it's been identified now as a problem. And if there ever, God forbid, an accident or something like that, we would definitely be on the hook because we didn't do our due diligence. But I've talked to other municipalities where they've got a whole lot worse ditches than we do of how they get away with it. And they said, we don't do these. We can't afford to do these. I think we're getting close to that too, but 2029, that's another whole term of council almost. Thank you.
Counselor Cerna.
Thank you. Spring Hill Road, that's a shared road with BAM, is it not?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that is a boundary road with BAM. In this case, with the boundary road agreements that we have, this is a Malahide road to maintain, which is why we're doing the work.
Nice try. I want one more question. Is there any statistics on that road? Like we're putting up guide rails for 100 grand. Any idea when the last time somebody went off the road where we're putting up guide rails?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I do not have that information. I'm sure it would have been factored into the road safety audit inspection data in the first place if there was any instance. I would have to go back and look to be able to confidently answer that.
I hate to ask this, but I know you're probably busy, but I would like to know because I think we're probably putting up a guide rail where nobody's ever gone off the road before. And this is the problem, and I go back to this all the time. We put up guide rails where since they invented the automobile, nobody's ever gone off the road. And it's costing us an arm and a leg. And it just doesn't seem right to me that we're spending all this money on signs for, people know there's a curve in the road. They've driven it for 50 or 60 years, and that curve hasn't changed. And yet now we got to put up signs in what do they call those things? The chevrons. We got to put up a chevron to tell somebody after 60 years that the curve is still there. And we got to put up a guide rail after 60 years or 70 years because people don't know that the ditch is still there. So I'd like to know if we're doing this for naught in spending all this money, because it just doesn't seem right to me. So if you could look that information up, I would really, really like to know if it's not too much trouble. If it's too much trouble, don't bother. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Cerna, for that. It may not be a matter of too much trouble. I'm just wondering if, as Deputy Mayor Widner stated, council has received and approved the results of the safety audit. And my recollection of it is that it's not based on necessarily on past, but it's based on the geometry and the probability based on engineering calculations. So we've endorsed that recommendation, and now we're implementing all of those recommendations. So I don't know that there's a way to go back, and I don't know if it's worth looking at the history of incidents, because I don't think that was part of the calculations in the engineer's report, as I recall. But Councillor Wilson first, and then perhaps staff want to comment further.
Through you, Madam Mayor, like part of the problem with, it's like, here's the rules, you got to do this. Well, it's not to worry about the people that have been there for 60 years. It's all the people that Google Maps sent down the road who've never been on the road before. Like Wilson Line, I've never seen so much traffic as the last, I don't know how many years. And I can guarantee you, I don't wave at people anymore. I used to because they were my neighbors. Now it's tinted out windows, and it's whoever the hell Google Maps sent down Wilson Line because it's a good straightaway from 74 all the way to the other end of Oxford County line. So it's just the way that things are. It's unfortunate, but you got to bite it, I guess.
Director Godby, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't disagree with what I'm hearing. What I can do is bring back some additional information on the road safety audits in general. What is still kind of an outlying items to be addressed, and kind of where we're going from here. As council may recall, Ryan DeSutter has been trained to do that, and we're no longer doing wholesale safety auditing. Even in the course, they basically said it was never intended for such a thing. It's meant to be site specific and looked at on an individualized basis based on concern or problem that exists. So instead of, to your point, Councillor Cerna, of going out and, looking for a problem that may not exist, we're actually taking it the opposite way to look at only when problems do exist, what do we do to make things better? But I can put together something with some more information, with the plans going forward and what commitments have been previously made for council's concern. You will all see another line item coming in the 2026 budget season. So I don't know if we could tailor those two kind of things on that timeline. That would work for staff if that works for council.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Cerna.
Yeah, thank you. Guide rails is one thing. It's the same thing with speed signs. 40, 60, 80, back to 40, 60, 80. I mean, we've got a half a Brazilian forest on Malahide Township roads just in speed signs. And I don't know why. And there's sometimes you got a hidden intersection. We had that one time where a guy wanted a hidden intersection sign put up because he was on a half a hill, and we had a hell of a time getting that done. I mean, common sense tells you, and I don't understand it. The speed sign changes are just ridiculous. We should have a sign outside of Malahide that says, "Welcome to Malahide, speed limit 50 kilometers an hour. Doesn't matter where the hell you go." But we change the speed limit signs. In some places, it doesn't even make sense. You're 500 miles or 500 kilometers from a stop sign, and the speed limit sign all of a sudden changes from 60 to 80. And then you got to slow down and hit the brakes, or you're going to go through the intersection. This is what I mean. Like, we don't need all those signs. And it just somehow doesn't make sense to me. And this is where we can save some money on those 4x4 posts, because I know I bought a bunch. They're expensive. So, maybe that's where we can stop some of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. And it sounds like, yeah, it does tie into budget. So it sounds like a sort of a side report just to complement the planning on that and just give us the big picture where we're at, I think would be very useful. Deputy Mayor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jason. Jason, when we redo a road, we're really doing a lot of ditching. And is there any thought by the deep ditches we're putting in, would that trigger a guardrail having to be put up? Is there a criteria for guardrails of how deep or steep it has to be? I'm just curious because I know when my road was redone, they're really deep in spots, and I'm just curious. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. No, it's a good point. One of the things that we do factor in is the road geometry, platform widths, other visual sight lines, horizontal curves, vertical curves, all that stuff gets factored into these needs. In many cases, your portion of College is pretty wide and open and flat and straight, where even though there is a wide ditch, there is still a wider road platform. There is still a bigger shoulder, so it doesn't necessarily trigger some of those requirements. Ryan does look at that when we are doing these reconstruction works. He is typically our lead designer. And I mean, he's very good at what he does and is well trained in road design and road safety devices. So that stuff is all looked at. A good example is nothing was triggered on College. However, last year when we did the rehabilitation of the furthest eastern portion of Chalet Line, there was a portion there that required some new guide rail to be installed where there had never been some before because of the road width and the proximity to that ravine. So he does look at that, and when we need to, we will factor this into the overall road reconstruction costs.
Thank you for that.
Right. Good point. We don't want to inadvertently introduce new hazards on the road that then we have to find out in the next audit. So, okay. Good discussion. I know it's been a bit frustrating because everybody's had to learn, but with the price tag. So thank you for looking into that closely. If there are no further discussions or comments, then we'll proceed with the resolution, please.
That report number PW 25-37 entitled 10 Results Guardrail Installations on Springer Hill Road be received, and that the Director of Public Works be authorized to enter into an agreement with Royal Fence Limited of Dorchester, Ontario in the amount of $99,400 plus applicable HST for the supply and installation of steel beam guardrail on Springer Hill Road, and that funding for this project be drawn from the approved 2025 road capital budget.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Cerna moves. Counselor Glinski seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. And the next item is the upgrade to the security system. Manager Pennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is an ask for some additional funding for some security upgrades at the township admin office. It's been identified that there are some safety concerns there with no existing budgets left for this year for the control of who can access the building and to modernize the alarm system. The recommended option 1 includes 3 parts. First, replacing the rear door with a new door that is wired safety glass for visibility and safety concern there. Second, installing a fob access system that ties into the township existing system. As council may know, we put one at South Dorchester earlier this year, so that staff can be issued individual controllable fobs. And last is the upgrade of the alarm system so that staff can have individual access codes and it can be tracked who disables the alarm system at the admin building. The total estimated cost for this upgrade is $14,000 to be funded from the capital reserve. There should be a note that there's a slight monthly alarm monitoring fee increase as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you for that. Question from council? Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe more of a comment. With today's society, they should have the most secured building they can have. They need to feel safe in their workplace. There shouldn't even be a reasonable doubt that they shouldn't get the best of the best. So I'll just move option 1. It just needs to happen.
Councilor Leach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How has the fob system been working at South Dorchester Community Hall?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that fob system has worked wonderful so far. It's been a great asset in reducing the amount of staff hours that are needed to unlock and lock the building after every rental period. So it's been well received.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just have a question, okay? If the glass gets smashed, I know it's got wire in it. Does the alarm go off as like a percussion alarm? Or is that not in place?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that option has not been included as part of this. It can be an addition that's added to this new alarm system. There are additions to this newer alarm system that we'll be going to, but at this time, that is not included as part of this upgrade.
Okay, thank you for that. Then I would have an option. We put a small one in where you couldn't crawl through it. And I guess the fear is someone's on the other side. Well, that would help too, right? But if you put one in big enough, somebody could get in if we don't have that system. Just my opinion.
Councilor Lewis?
Just a follow-up sort of, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 5 feet from that door, there's a full-size window that goes into an office. So to downsize the size of the window, if they move 5 feet over, they can go through the window in the building. No, I know, but no, staff can't see anybody that comes to that door in any way, shape, or form. So it definitely, yeah, you're opening it blind every time I've been there and knocked, and you could really rattle somebody. If they seen me, they wouldn't open it.
Okay, thank you for that. Sounds a very, very reasonable and almost overdue upgrade. So thank you for bringing that up on behalf of the whole team there. So may I have the resolution, please? Counselor Cerna?
Yeah, can we put that under that grant program we were discussing earlier?
The energy efficiency.
Yeah, like make it a decent airtight door or something. It's a thought.
We have to conduct the study first. All right, resolution, please.
The report number PW 25-39 entitled Administrative Building Security System Upgrades be received, and that council authorize staff to proceed with option 1, full security upgrade, which includes the replacement of the rear door with a new wired glass door, the installation of a fob access system, and the upgrade of the alarm system, and that the total estimated cost of $14,000 be funded from the capital reserve.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. I think Counselor Lewis has moved that and Counselor Glinski seconded. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, gentlemen. This brings us to the next section is bylaws. Resolution, please.
That the following bylaws be now read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 25-38 MP rezoning and bylaw 25-57 and some rezoning.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. This brings us to Committee of the Whole. There's one item for the committee, so let's have the resolution to move into committee.
Resolved that we do now move into committee of the whole.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. So the one item for consideration by the committee is the road surface conversion policy. Director Godby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. The purpose of this report and the reason that it's a committee of the whole is to give council kind of staff's first kick at a policy for how we evaluate and look at each road segment that we're going to be doing a resurfacing of or requests for resurfacing of any of our existing roads. This has been a collaborative effort of our roads operations and asset management and myself, and also some collaboration with other municipal neighbors who have implemented similar. It basically is intended to provide council with more of a firm guideline for responding to requests of what a road surface should be. The most frequent one that we typically deal with here in Malahide is those who are looking to have a gravel road converted to a surface treatment road. So what this does is kind of gives some of the framework for us to critically evaluate those requests and try to take the personal feelings or thoughts about things out of the requests. So in the report, I've identified that the proposed policy can basically be summarized as the number of bullet points on page 2 there. So the surface type of a roadway should be appropriately designed to accommodate the volume and type of traffic. So one of the first things we will always do is traffic counts. What is the average daily traffic on a road? What are the average speeds? And what is the type of traffic? We are able to gather data to figure out the differences between small trucks and vehicles versus large trucks. They're able to pick that up with our traffic counting. Road geometry plays a big difference. In order to hard surface, as soon as you hard surface a road, speeds naturally go up. If you're going to do something that's going to increase speed, you got to be wary of what that road geometry is. Is the road itself wide enough? Are there big horizontal curves and changes in directions? Are there vertical ups and downs of hills, blind hills, things like that, where we don't want to potentially create more hazard by naturally not encouraging, but allowing people to drive faster. The existing road base is probably one of the major drivers in Malahide. Like many rural municipalities, a lot of roads were basically just evolved over time with layers of gravel and layers of gravel on top of potentially native soils. They may not have even, we have found instances where there's been topsoil under pieces of road. Most of the time they've at least stripped it and put some sand down and then some gravel, but this happens. So, I mean, we would look at the geotechnical and do some geotechnical analysis of that road and do some boreholes to see what's actually under the ground before we put a new good surface on it. The biggest thing with that is it can drive the cost exponentially if you have to do significant removals of native soils or of a road bed that is not suitable for the new weights and to support that new surface. We need to know these things before we agree to it. That slightly ties to drainage. Inadequate drainage will frequently will show itself through excessive deterioration of the road surface. If the base is saturated, it's going to have significantly more movement. When that movement then gets transferred upwards and the pressures on the surface gets pushed down, you get everything kind of shifting like trying to walk on a waterbed. So that needs to be looked at. Many places in Malahide, we do have access to good drainage, so it can be achieved. However, it's important to note that we may not always have an outlet. Drains also cost additional money, so it's not necessarily just the looking at what does it take to throw that surface treatment surface down. Surrounding land uses get played into it. Are we looking at an area that is becoming a major corridor? Have we approved industrial development or commercial development or even some of our neighboring? It's not something that we've done, but people are cutting through on a road that never really used to be used that way. That also ties back to, the initial traffic counts that we talked to. We'll also look at our own plans for growth within the township. And, if we know that we're going to be doing something where we're expecting to grow in a certain area, we would be looking at doing some of this work to evaluate what do we need to do and what type of road is best suited to support what we expect the future growth and future traffic patterns to be. Financial sustainability is a big one. As soon as you hard surface a road, it goes into that annual program where we are spending, in excess of $1 million, somewhere upwards around $2 million, in order to just keep up with keeping what we have. That definitely can put financial pressures on the municipality, which we need to be cognizant of. Other things like the Ontario minimum maintenance standard, it plays in, just knowing that gravel roads are held to a higher or a lower standard for maintenance overall, which translates to less staffing requirements, less monitoring, less plowing. All those things can have an effect as soon as you hard surface a road. So The purpose of this entire policy is to kind of lay out how staff will look at and critically analyze a segment of road that has been suggested for conversion, so that we could ultimately bring that information with all those relevant details to council for your consideration. Ultimately, this is a council decision as to what level of service we would want to provide to any given area. And that way council can have some firm data and firm recommendations from staff in accordance with all of these factors for their evaluation. So you're not put in the spot of just having to make a decision on what may be the most popular or not popular, when you can look at it critically and analyze the data behind it. So it is a bit of a lengthy document. Again, this is why we have decided to bring it to the committee of a whole. There's no urgency per se on the approval of this. I think it's something that council has had a bit of an interest in for a while when we talk about conversion of gravel roads. Gravel roads to surface treatment roads has been the big thing. This council has also gone through a hard surface regression back to a gravel road, which was dealt with. This policy also will contemplate that scenario. And it's also intended, by running it through this tool, where you could look at the upgrade from a surface treatment road all the way up to more of an asphalt road that meets more of the county road standards that are built. Ultimately, if we get into those things, we've obviously had something as a major driver, and the county would also be looking at that, absorbing into their network or whatever. It opens the door for those conversations in all directions. So there is a lot of data there, and I would encourage everyone to read, ask questions. We're definitely open to any feedback or concerns that council and or the public have with this. We're just trying to implement a tool that allows things for a consistent evaluation. So with that, if you have any other questions tonight, that's great. If not, we can have time to review and collect thoughts, questions, ideas, and report them back through myself. And we will reconvene at some time in the future in order to hopefully address any questions, concerns that may have happened. If not, look at moving the policy forward and implementing it as we go forward with any of our road conversion programs. So with that, I will stop talking.
Thank you. As you said, it's something that has been of interest, and so adding some structure to the decision-making process, I think, is a good idea. So, and as you mentioned, also, we don't need to resolve it tonight, but we'll get the discussion started. Councillor Cerna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Jason, I always thought, since I've been on council, and when I first got on, we had quite an aggressive surface treatment program in place, that once you surface treated a road from gravel, that it was cheaper to maintain. And I think that's what we did. Now what I'm hearing tonight is somewhat the opposite. So which is it? I'm kind of confused.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Cerna. It's a very difficult question to answer. We have many roads that, due to traffic volumes and usage, we resurface, and they could likely go into a 10-year cycle before they really start breaking up. It also, that drainage affects that. If there's proper drainage there, anecdotally, I've been told that most of the roads in the north of Malahide hold up a lot better to the surface treatment than the ones as you get closer to the lake. A lot of that is due to that subsurface geology. So it's hard to definitively say one is cheaper than the other because it is so site specific. In many ways, you know, you're not typically your gravel road would be a lower class of road, which then gives you lower maintenance responsibilities. However, we all know what it's like with concerns to get out for washboarding on gravel roads or potholes. So then you've got road graders that you have to own and operate, and you've got to send those out. Yes, you don't have salt necessarily applied in winter control. You're just plowing, so you save a little on winter materials and your response time is typically a little lower. But when the trucks are out, it's frequently a lot easier when you've already got your sand and salt mix to just keep on plowing down the hard surface roads. You hard surface a road, you're going to be back into things like filling potholes more often. You invariably increase traffic volumes, which deteriorate the road. You're going to have more roadkill strikes. So it kind of, they're kind of intermingled. And that's why I would hesitate to say that one or the other is cheaper. But, you know, in general, when you have a properly drained hard surfaced road with a adequate base that can support the heavy traffic on top of it, they hold up well. It's the heavy trucks that go down, the farm equipment that goes down that is getting bigger and bigger and heavier. Without the proper base under that road, we are seeing those roads deteriorate much quicker than we would have expected, and you lose that affordability. Now, all of a sudden, you're looking at, geez, this one's only lasted 5 years instead of our hope of 7 or more. And then you compound that across the municipality, and that's where you could all of a sudden run into seeing your annual resurfacing program start to really escalate, which we don't want either. So it's a long way of me saying I don't have a good answer for you.
I was going to say, thanks for answering my question.
You're welcome.
So many factors. Councillor Glinski and then Councillor Wilson.
Madam Mayor, to Jason, I've lived on a road that was gravel and now it's hard surfaced, and I can tell you that gravel is expensive. It was expensive way back when, and if you had to take your tractor out to get from my place to Mount Salem because the road bottom just disappeared, to fill all those potholes, all those holes with gravel wasn't cheap. I don't see them doing that kind of work on that road now, and the second concession is the same. It's the same kind of story. And as far I understand everything that you've said, and I'm not saying that you don't know what you're talking about, because I think you do. But we do have one less grader than we have now, so that's a savings. That means that we're not going to be replacing it. We still have 56 kilometers of gravel road, and I don't know how often they get resurfaced with gravel, but seems to be quite often. Time seems to fly when you get a little older, so every time I turn around, I see gravel being put down. I was just wondering if there's any plan at looking at gravel roads. I know you can't do an awful lot of them at one time, but because you have to look after the drainage, you have to look after everything that goes along with it. You have to look after the subsurface underneath the road that is there. Is there any plan to look at decreasing the the 56 kilometers to something less, so that eventually that 56 disappears, and that's not going to happen overnight. I know that. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Glinski. Yes, this road conversion policy would be the first step for us to identify candidates. So occasionally we get requests from the residents, occasional and frequent flyers, you know, some of the ones that are in proximity to the urban areas of Malahide or are frequently being used as cut throughs. We could run them through these tools to give a critical evaluation of what it would cost, and then we can provide costs, because you are correct. Aggregate, just for putting on those roads, we're on a 5-year cycle. It is expensive. It doesn't come without costs. Some are just not suitable because it's too swampy in the area, and that's probably why it was a gravel road and has remained a gravel road. But without having a framework to start with to work through, we don't want to just throw our resources at everything. So when we talk about the road bases, one of the things that would come out of this is the need to do more geotechnical investigation to see what's actually underneath. And can you build a suitable road that will last on top of that location? And this policy speaks to that and contemplates that, so that we can look at that overall goal. If that is the goal of Malahide, to continue to reduce that 56 kilometers, because ultimately it generally does, at least in my opinion, provide for a higher level of service for vehicles, for residents and for visitors to our communities. But we just need to weigh those costs.
Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think in general, converting stuff to the tar and chip is cost effective, but I also know that if you try to tar and chip Whitaker between York and Avon, I'm sure the graders still pop up old logs from the corduroy road. So, you know, that's not really a very good candidate. So it's geotechnical specific to certain spots, and there's no use in trying to service treat that, because you'd be continually maintaining something you can't maintain. So I understand where you're coming from.
Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through to Jason, I echo Councillor Cerna's comment that we were always told that the gravel road is the most expensive road we could ever have. But I sat through some workshops about road and road services at one of these conferences, and they said part of the reason it's more expensive now for the tar and chip, you're supposed to go back every 3, 4, 5 years, put a coating on them before you lose them. If you don't, it's going to cost you more in the end. Is that what we're doing, and is that a correct statement?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. Yes, generally speaking, yes. It is, once you lose a surface street road, you lose, if the integrity of that surface gets too damaged, you're into a full repulverization and relaying of that surface. Whereas if you can keep on them on a very tight cycle, and continue to get that single surface treatment on that 5 to 7 years. Like our schedule typically is you do a double. So like the piece in going out of town here in Springfield, that was a double surface treatment. So we would go do that. And then 3 years from now, we're going to do that, hit that piece again with a single. And the idea is it's given everything a bit of time to settle. You're going to get some minor cracking, but then you're going to fill it back in. And as long as you're going back and filling it back in and getting that new tar and dust and chip in there, you're not going to have that whole surface breakup. But when you start to get the alligator cracking or the significant cracking on the single treatment roads, you are very quickly into a very expensive total rebuild. And that's one of the places that you can put yourself in jeopardy by not financing the single surface treatment program required. If you keep stretching it a little bit too far, you'll be amazed at how quickly it's gone too far. And now you go, oh, I can't even do this to this road anymore. It's just throwing away money. Now we're into a full rebuild. And that's why we kind of speak to the need to watch the financial side of things and what those implications are. But you're right, you keep on them, and if you can identify problems, which we do our roads need studies, and we have our guys trained to evaluate and monitor road conditions. They're very good at communicating, you know, this one's really not holding up, or this one's starting to really go, and we get on it right away. That really allows us to prolong the life of that road in an affordable manner.
Thank you. I just had another question. He's mentioned that we converted a road from hard surface to gravel. Is that east of Springfield Road and College? Or Hacienda Road? Or? Oh,
Yes, it was Temperance off of that little
Oh, yeah.
horseshoe that apparently we inherited way long ago and nobody knew. And
surprise, it's ours.
so, yes. But I mean, there are other potential candidates out there that, you know, could be discussed. I don't want to throw anything out at this point just because I don't want to get anybody upset thinking that we're going to go do something. But I mean, when you look at some of the really low volume ones, that you weigh the return on investment for the money to convert versus, or to completely rebuild because now it's gone too far and it's not a single surface treatment, it's all total rebuild. Pulverization and a bit of gravel and a bit of grading once in a while for some areas might prove to be an economical solution as well.
Okay, and I'm glad we left the section on College gravel. You couldn't ask for a better pack job than what you're getting now with all the trucks and tractors and wagons, and he is getting a little washboardy, just so you know. I'm sure you know that. But no, I'm curious to see how that'll last. And I think it's a good sign because I mean, it was as smooth as the road before with the gravel because it was getting pretty tough. And now it's wide and nice and smooth. So I hope it works. I think it will.
Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is kind of, have we considered using optical illusions to slow traffic down? And I have anecdotally noticed that there is a very different traffic usage pattern with both the bridge out on 52 and the work that's being done closer to St. Thomas. So that this policy will help navigate how our road usage is changing as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure what you mean by optical illusions.
So I've at some of the conferences they've made the road appear narrower, or they've added like maybe some illusion of a pothole.
Like
So-
Roadrunner Coyote.
But the narrowing, or you know, other mechanisms to make drivers slow down.
Like
Yeah,
traffic
through you,
calming
Madam Mayor. That's
strategy.
exactly what I was going to say. That's one of the traffic calming techniques that they will typically employ. They always say, you know, people will drive as fast as you feel comfortable driving. So if there are those types of optics that you can do to make people feel a little less comfortable, they will naturally slow down. I mean, I've seen it many times myself, just where things get busy and you look and I'm doing 70 and I'm thinking, well, the speed limit's posted 80. So it does have an effect. We have not really examined anything in particular for any of our roads. One of the things we don't necessarily have here either is a formalized traffic calming policy. It's on the list because it is a very good point. one of the things that frequently is cited is pavement markings can help slow people down. They come at a very high annualized cost. We have a lot of paint on our roads already. The more we add, that contract just keeps going up as well. So it kind of ties back again to the future financial sustainability of things. But no, we don't look at those things. However, a future coming traffic calming policy would speak to options such as that that could be employed. Mainly, it's most frequently done in more urban areas. And that's mainly because that's where you want to see the speed violators really clamp down on.
Thank you for that. So yes, so this is a beginning of, we have to start somewhere, but to try, as you said, to make the decision-making process as objective as possible. Because it's fascinating just how all the different costs. So the moment you may improve the surface to reduce one cost, but then inadvertently you increase a whole bunch of other costs. Then you need more OPP enforcement, then because there's speeding, then you need increased, like the minimum service standard increases, then so you need more paint, you need more signs, So, and I'm glad to hear that conversion doesn't mean always an upgrade. Like it's not just, gravel to hard surface. It could also be a downgrade, or it could also be a conversion from like an 80 sort of collector road to maybe trying to be more strategic to try to channel traffic where we want, and maybe downgrading some roads to a lower speed, because it's not a coincidence. If you notice in, I think like on Ron McNeil or around the PowerCo plant, like they've lowered the speed limit significantly, and it's not for safety. There's nothing that has changed in the geography. It's not a safety audit. It downgrades the minimum service standard. So it's actually a cost saving from a road maintenance. So at some point, like right now, Malahide, I know there's a lot of pride in the quality of our roads, but look at all the other consequences of that in terms of maintenance, in terms of policing, in terms of safety, and all of those concerns. So I think this is one step toward maybe becoming more strategic, because we may get to a point where we can't afford the quality that we have everywhere on every road. You know what I mean? So I think this is a step in the right direction, and yeah, it's not always upgrading. Sometimes it's about strategic downgrading too. Councillor Cerno?
Just a comment. One, if St. Thomas needs signs, I'm sure we could sell them a bunch. And the other thing is, just through you to Jason, we've talked about this before. When I come from the farm to town, I take Hacienda all the time. And in my situation, the wife still has a house in Langton. And we talked about how they surface treated the 12th there. And what we do here in Malahide and what happened there in front of her place is night and day. And we seem to do a damn good job here in Malahide when we surface treated that Hacienda Road. It is perfect. It's packed, it's clean. There is not a loose pebble on that road. Honest to God, somebody must have went down there with super glue or Gorilla Glue, because in front of her house, half that road is going to be on her front lawn. It's not a good job. And so whatever we're doing, whenever we can do it, whenever we can afford it, keep doing what you're doing. And top notch to the workers, yourself, Ryan, his crew, whoever you hire, keep doing it, because it's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glinsky?
Madam Mayor, I'm glad you mentioned Ron McNeil line and around St. Thomas, because with all the roundabouts that are there, I don't see anybody speeding, and I don't see a million cruisers out there controlling traffic. The roundabouts are controlling it, and they're doing a fantastic job of it. Even I don't have to have a camera there that Rick would put up.
Mario and Betty.
Yeah, right. So there are other ways of controlling things other than signs and paint on the road. And well, if other areas are going to roundabouts, maybe we should be looking at that a little bit too. I know they're not cheap, but what is in this day and age? Thank you.
Thank you. So my question to the committee then is this ready? Do you want to think about this further? Do you want to seek further input? Or is this ready to recommend for council to approve? Do you want to give it more time? Or do we implement or make the recommendation this evening, and then it could be as you start using this tool, perhaps you may come back with some tweaking. Sometimes it's hard to predict until you actually try to use it. It depends on which roads what are you going to target first? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think we should just go ahead. We can't do anything until we get information anyway. And we can always tweak what we get. So yeah, it'd be nice to see it get proceed on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm open.
Yeah. Director Godby?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, I think that sounds good for staff. Just for information and flow wise, one of the things that was approved in the 2025 budget was the completion of our roads need study for this year. Just the way things have worked out, we have deferred that work to be done in the spring. So likely over the course of the winter months and in early spring, you'll see me back here to recommend the award potentially of a contract to have our roads need study completed, which includes a full road surface evaluation. One of the things that we will do is have that work compared against this policy then that should be able to give us perhaps some of those initially, here are good candidates for further investigation or good candidates for potential future conversions in one direction or another. So realistically, if this is approved in its current state, it'll likely be spring, early summer of next year that we would come back with some follow-up to say, here's how we have now applied this tool against some of the information that we have for further discussion for council.
Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Can you kind of go back and say that again? We are going to have a roads need study to look at the surfaces and the surfaces only? Is that something we can't do ourselves with Ryan's accreditation?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. We've had this conversation internally a number of times. It boils down to the sheer workload for Ryan. It's not really practical for him to dedicate the time to do the proper job of going out and evaluating and validating all of the data for the road surfaces. There is a little bit to it when we're talking about looking at measurement of all the platform widths and a proper investigation of the type of displacement of pavement that's happening, which is why historically we've typically had that as a contracted service that has gone out. It was Four Roads Consulting has been doing the studies here in Malahide for a long time. They're no longer in business, but he eventually retired. So I thought we might be able to do that, but with all the other priority items, it's just not something that we can fit into our regular work plan for Ryan.
But it's just looking at road surfaces only, or are we?
It's not a safety audit. We're not doing that.
But it's road
Right,
needs.
right. It is not a road safety audit. It is basically our last roads need study, I believe, was completed in 2021. And what that does is it looks at drainage features and geometries and stuff of all of our roads. We have a good amount of all that data from the previous studies, and it's updating those pavement and road surface condition assessments so that those feed into the asset management plan, which is then used to populate our annual requests for which roads need to be into the surface treatment program in time so that we catch them before they're deteriorated too far and we got to rebuild them. So it's not all the other stuff. It is focused on that road corridor and that road pavement condition, basically.
Okay. Usually when they have these studies, it gets very expensive at the end of the day, but we'll hold you to it, and I think it should be.
All right, so any further discussion then? Sounds like there's consensus on moving this through to council to approve at our next meeting. But if there are any thoughts on the next 2 weeks, there's still going to be an opportunity to add anything or further comments. All right, so we'll proceed with the resolution then.
The report number PW 25-36 entitled Road Surface Conversion Policy be received, and that the committee recommend council approve the attached road surface conversion policy for implementation by staff.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Glinski moves. Councillor Leach second. All in favor? The motion is carried. That was the only item for the committee, so we can move out of the committee of the whole.
Resolved that we do now move out of committee of the whole and reconvene the regular council meeting.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Lewis moves. Councillor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. So this brings us to correspondence. There's several items. You can tell the provincial legislature is back in session. There's a lot happening that I think we need to really keep an eye on. I don't know if there are comments or comments from staff on some of the new policies being considered or questions from council. I'll start with Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to support number 3 from Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. I sit on that board, and I know Scott sits on Catfish, and I think we're probably both very concerned about what the province is going to do to the conservation authorities. I think that they're probably implementing city problems to rural areas that don't have these problems. And I think we are incredibly well served by the conservation authorities that serve our municipality. And I'm not really interested in seeing a Thames Valley School Board situation here with what is working perfectly fine for our conservation authorities. And I'm worried about what they're going to be doing. I think it's headaches that are going to be jammed down to us when we aren't having any headaches with our conservation authorities whatsoever. It's very concerning.
So the correspondence we received from Kettle Creek is, if I recall, was mostly information, right? So
yes, it is. I'm just adding some commentary.
Right, but no, because you said support. So I'm just wondering if staff have or council wants to articulate some concerns, like some specific concerns, because I think the window of comments is still open. So do we want to actually submit a letter in response to, because right now there wasn't a concern really articulated by Kettle Creek, right? And I don't think Catfish Creek has issued any statement or concerns, or so I don't know, are either conservation authorities going to be responding or providing comments to the registry? Because perhaps if we got a copy of that, then we could endorse that.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, like I happen to sit on the executive board for Kettle Creek, and I think at this moment in time, it's
wait and see
what they're going to do. But I'm worried about what they're going to do.
So it won't be necessarily support, we'll just receive it today and then we'll count on you to, if there's any concern that are specifically articulated or comments that are entered, then we could, be right behind that and support that. Okay, we'll monitor that. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, just to echo Councillor Wilson's, we did receive a letter from our general manager, Dusty Underhill, this week regarding what was announced from our government. And like, as our general manager, he is severely worried. Like, he figures his position will be gone. And he will release a public notification, he said here. So I imagine in the near future that, yes, Catfish will be releasing a public information when they do find out more. But the vibe is not a good vibe. No, it's the higher ups are keeping themselves all in a nice tight knit and letting the downs sort of wish away, and yeah, it's unfortunate.
Councillor Leach and then Councillor Cerna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My concern would be that we lose our intensely local representation and the potential of having a greater financial burden from a larger body, which, yeah, those are my concerns.
I don't have it right in front of me, but does anyone know the window for responses, for comments?
45 days. Consultation post?
Right, yeah.
45.
So we're still within, so there's still a bit of time. Okay, so let's monitor that and see where this goes. Councillor Cerna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My concern when I heard this was if they're going to go to 6 areas, first of all, with my colleague, Councillor Wilson, you're going to end up with a Thames Valley type of thing where you have a whole county like Alden County having 2 representatives for a whole county. And you have to remember, and I worry about Port Bruce, because Port Bruce is probably the only place that has an icebreaker. Like, I don't think Kettle Creek runs one in Port Stanley. Okay, and I don't think our neighbors to the east have one down in Long Point or Turkey Point. We are the only ones that supply that down in Port Bruce. So I don't think if you have just 6, they're going to look at Port Bruce and say, well, out of the 6 areas, we're going to look after Port Bruce and everything stays status quo. So you're going to have big problems when you consolidate like that. And you're going to lose your identity and you're going to lose your representation. And it's not, bigger is not only better, or bigger is not better unless, well, we won't go to the bedroom side of it, but it's not going to be a good thing for sure. So it scares me what they're doing. So I pity the Port Bruce people big time. So we got to be aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and it sounds, we're just looking at the correspondence or the memos that Catfish have issued, and it looks like the window is not open yet, like they're monitoring and they will issue a statement. I just want to clarify with staff, and because I don't want the public to be concerned if in areas where they don't need to be concerned, ice breaking is a township responsibility. We pay for it, we call for it, we seek the advice on, the flood mitigation strategies. We seek their recommendations. So you're right, we don't want to lose that expertise and the advice. But I don't see a scenario where ice breaking would be threatened any kind of way, because that's a municipal responsibility that we have taken on. So I don't want anyone, again, like, there's enough fear on other things. Okay. Okay, so we'll monitor that. Any other correspondence that we want to comment? Councillor Leach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was wondering how the correspondence from Minister Flack is affecting Malahide.
Thank you. Councillor Diaz? No. CO Diaz.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to this change for development charges, the key change here is currently we issue billing for development charges when we issue the building permit. Now, with regard to this, for any sort of non-rental residential development, now there is the option to pay the development charges at either first occupancy or when the occupancy permit is issued. So that is going to be something that we're going to work out internally in terms of our process. Another important element is this sort of delay in timing is something that the province is assuring will not lead to any interest charges for that development charge payment.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Glinski?
Madam Mayor, number 11, if we are really serious about new homes and supporting housing, if HST, GST were removed, it would be a big boost to the people that are thinking about building. Because right now, when you talk to anyone, the first thing they say, does that include HST and GST? And the answer is yes. And all of a sudden, they're not interested. And this would be a hard sell because there's a lot of money that comes from HST and GST from building that goes to government pockets. And the government doesn't like to see money all of a sudden not come into their pockets. Thank you.
Would you like to support that
11.
item? Number 11. Okay. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, the resolution, please.
Be it resolved that item 11 be supported and the remaining 16 items be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. And we do not have any closed session items, so we can go right away into confirmatory bylaw.
And that bylaw number 25-59 being a confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, third reading and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Wilson moves, Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. And now adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 8:54 p.m. to meet again on November 20th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Councillor Cerna seconds. All in favor? Motion is carried. Enjoy the rest of your evening.